military drills that's prompting concern here in Taipei as security officials reveal just how quickly China's military is evolving. A new report from Taiwan's National Security Bureau shows that Beijing's so-called large-scale exercises could be smaller, regular drills that are hyped up to be a bigger threat.
我们会来注意，因为现在中共的相关的演习也跟委员报告说明，他这些演习有很多也是把他例行性的演习给拼凑在一起，变成是一个所谓的对台的针对性的演习，那再配合到征讯的操作，来造成国人的一种恐慌。
Earlier in April, China launched large-scale drills known as Straight Thunder 2025A, which saw dozens of aircraft and warships surround Taiwan. Beijing says the exercises focus on precision strikes and were in response to Taiwan President Lai Ching-te announcing a plan to counter Chinese espionage. But Taiwan's Security Bureau says this is an excuse.
这一次的演习的时间点确实是比较特殊，因为总统是在3月13号召开国安高层会议，做了一些加强我们防治中共渗透的一些措施的宣布。但是演习的时间是拖到了4月1号跟2号。假如是针对性的演习的话，时间不会拖这么长。所以我们在判断上，当然透过这个演习可以对台来进行一些施压。
But whatever the reason for the drills, Taiwan says it's seeing an unprecedented number of Chinese planes around the country. The total amount of Chinese incursions into the country's air defense identification zone has skyrocketed since they were first reported in 2019. 4 months into this year, and China's military, known as the PLA, have already tripled the number of planes it sent around Taiwan in the entirety of 2020. Despite Taiwan not responding to Chinese aggression with its own drills, it remains on alert, practicing how to mobilize its forces quickly for any situation that might arise. Ship defending the country's maritime border as a Chinese aircraft carrier looms in the distance. In the early hours of Tuesday, China announced it would conduct large-scale military exercises, simulating a blockade of Taiwan and practicing how to coordinate an attack on the country. The drills have been given no name and no end date has been announced. Taiwan's defense ministry says it has set up a response center to monitor the activity, which so far includes 71 Chinese military aircraft and 21 naval ships. China's Shandong carrier is now in the Western Pacific, continuing the exercises.
我们国防部呢，在3月29日掌握到中共山东号编队离开海南吉木礁了以后，后续我们就运用了联合勤监侦的手段，严密监控这批的动态。它的山东号编队大概在我们鹅銮鼻的东南220里的位置。
Along with the military exercises, China also says it's deployed its Coast Guard to surround the main island of Taiwan as it performs what it's calling law enforcement drills. Early Tuesday, Chinese Coast Guard ships were intercepted as they tried to breach restricted waters near the outlying islands of Jinmen. Analysts here say it's all an attempt to cut off Taiwan from the rest of the world.
企图封锁我国海上航道，还有对陆对海的打击，也就是飞弹攻击陆上的设施，乃至于所谓的这个多权的控制，也就包括电磁权、网络权、资讯权，乃至于太空权的部分。
In the past 12 months, China has conducted at least 4 major exercises, changing how countries like Taiwan and the U.S. view the posture of China's People's Liberation Army, or PLA. As what was once a rare sight is now becoming more and more common.
我认为这在很大程度上说明，我们今天看到的相关的演练的内容，已经是一种新常态了。对解放军而言，对东部战区来说是家常便饭了。
With no end date announced for the latest maneuvers, Taiwan's military is stuck in a tough spot as it scrambles to defend its borders without knowing Beijing's intention. Fu Hahong, Adil Brar, and Jaime Okan for Taiwan Plus.
And to invade the relatively small yet globally significant island of Taiwan may be hitting a major roadblock. The Philippines, backed by the US, could influence China's invasion plans in a major China-Taiwan conflict. But what is it about the Philippines that makes them play such a pivotal role in this scenario? In the year 2023, Taiwan became the most strategically important piece of real estate on Earth. This de facto independent island nation, 110 miles off the coast of the Chinese mainland, sits at the center of the world's economic and geopolitical fault lines. Since it came to power in 1949, the Chinese Communist Party has regarded Taiwan as a renegade province, a relic left over from its long civil war and the century of humiliation it climaxed. This was the period between 1839 and 1949, where China repeatedly found itself invaded, defeated, occupied, and partitioned by foreign powers. Taiwan's self-governing status is a reminder to the Chinese leadership of those times, and reunifying it with the mainland is one of the most important objectives for China's authoritarian leader, Xi Jinping, who hopes that the process will be completed by 2049, the centennial of the Chinese Communist Party's ascendancy to power. There are many obstacles to this plan, but one of them is not so often cited: the Philippines. Filipino military is not a formidable fighting force, meaning that China has mostly been able to get its way in its disputes with the Philippines, despite the international tribunals ruling against it. The Philippines has an active army of about 100,000 active duty personnel, a navy with only a few vessels more fit for fighting than patrol boats, and about 25 combat aircraft. This means that militarily, the Philippines would contribute little to the defense of Taiwan, at least for now. However, the Philippines does have two advantages: its geographical position and its alliance with the United States, which it has now begun to ramp up ties with again after a period of frostier relations. In 2014, as the South China Sea dispute began to ramp up, the United States and the Philippines signed the Enhanced Defense Cooperation Agreement, EDCA. Under the terms of the EDCA, the United States will be able to expand its military presence in the Philippines, although the 2014 document did not specifically state where it would do this. Rather, the document only affirmed the principle that the armed forces of the Philippines would provide new locations for the United States Armed Forces. In 2016, 5 such locations were formally announced. These were, from north to south, Fort Magsaysay in Nueva Ecija, Besa Air Base in Pampanga, Mactan Benito Ebuen Air Base in Cebu, Antonio Bautista Air Base, and Lumbia Air Base in Cagayan de Oro. Of the 2016 locations, Antonio Bautista Air Base was the most important, as it was close to the disputed Spratly Islands in the South China Sea. However, as China's military buildup in the region has only grown since 2016, the United States and Philippines announced plans to further accelerate the EDCA in February 2023. In April, the Pentagon announced the creation of 4 new EDCA bases. These are Naval Base Camilo Osayas in Santa Ana, Cagayan, Camp Melchor de la Cruz in Gamu, Isabela, Balabac Island in Palawan, and Laulo Airport in Cagayan. Not coincidentally, 3 of these 4 locations are in the northern Philippines, which makes the intentions of that expansion clear. The new bases are to help deter a potential invasion of Taiwan by allowing the United States to more easily project power into a critical area, the Luzon Strait. The Luzon Strait is one of the first island chain's strategic choke points. It is a 160-mile gap of water between the Philippines and Taiwan. The Philippines' northernmost island, Mavulis, is even closer, at only 118 miles away from the world's most disputed hotspot. Here is where we see the role that the Philippines would play in the defense of the world's most hotly contested island. In the first place, the bases give the United States and its regional allies additional options to choke off shipping to China. As China is heavily dependent on foreign food and energy imports, this is something that the country's leadership will need to take seriously and helps aid the process of deterrence. Geographically, the bases strengthen a potential new front to counter a Chinese invasion of Taiwan if deterrence fails and hostilities actually become a reality. In the necessary amphibious operation, China would now likely be facing a pincer movement of forces moving south from Japan and north from the Philippines, adding to the already immense difficulty of pulling off a successful waterborne maneuver and establishing a beachhead across the Strait of Taiwan. An amphibious invasion is hard enough. An amphibious invasion that would need to fend off American and Allied forces on 2 sides, that would be almost impossible, especially with a lack of surprise on the invaders'